Before we get started, Ava and Peter, I wanted to get your reaction to a couple of damning, frankly horrific stories regarding the police and violence against women and girls today. This morning, the inquiry into the death of Sarah Everard has said her killer, Wayne Couzens, should never have been given a job as a police officer, and that chances to stop him were repeatedly missed and ignored. Couzens will never be released from prison after he abducted, raped and murdered Sarah in 2021. The report warns that without a radical overhaul of policing policies, there is nothing to stop another Couzens operating in plain sight. Met Police Officer Sir Mark Rowley said the report was a wake-up call, while Home Secretary James Cleverly and said the findings were not a reflection on most officers. Peter, you've served in the Met, you've served as a police officer. What do you make about this inquiry? And I mean, it's not a reflection of most officers. I think you'd be the first person to say that.
Yes, there are a significant number of very good police officers, and that is one of the compelling reasons why we need reform, change and huge improvements across policing, not just in vetting and recruiting and training, many other areas which Sir Mark Rowley will not allude to, and there is a staggering silence from the corridors of policing power about just how bad some things are. Judge Angiolini's report was only published 45 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I've read the main points. It's catastrophic, it's awful. There are other things and other missed opportunities that could have stopped Wayne Couzens. It really is a catastrophe, and the only tiny crumb of comfort that I can take from any of this is that he will gasp his last breath in prison.
Ava, coming to you on this one, it is horrific. I don't think any woman will ever forget what happened to Sarah Everard, and it was just absolutely horrendous beyond belief. You know, Wayne Couzens' nickname was literally the rapist. How could no one see where this was going to end? What do you make of what's happened
Well, this is what I don't understand about it, because, I mean, like Peter, I've just read the bullet points at the top of this report because it's only just come out, but I could have told you this. I could have told you what's come out in the report. You know, we already know that he had been flashing people, he'd been caught flashing, and we'd also seen that, you know, that there had been several warnings about whether he should be allowed to hold a gun outside Parliament. He was still allowed to do it.
Yes.
I could have told you these findings. What I want to know now is, what are the repercussions? Who's getting sacked? Why hasn't anyone been held accountable for this yet? The only person who's actually said anything perhaps that might lead to change is Sadiq Khan, who said that he, you know, thought that the Met had some serious structural issues and it needed to be restructured. But quite honestly, I think the public are looking at this, they're saying it's rotten to the core, and they want answers and they want sackings.
Unfortunately, as well, there's another story today that we have to talk about, and this is yesterday. The family of Emma Caldwell accused police in Scotland of failing their daughter due to a toxic culture of misogyny and corruption, which left her killer, Ian Packer, free to rape other women. Here's their statement.
A toxic culture of misogyny and corruption meant that the police failed so many women and girls who came forward to speak against Packer. Instead of receiving justice and compassion, they were humiliated, they were dismissed, and in some instances they were arrested, whilst the police gifted freedom to an evil predator to rape and to rape again. We now know that Packer carried out rapes, sexual offences and assaults nearly 20 times after Emma's murder in 2005. Margaret believes that officers systematically sabotaged an investigation into Packer for a decade and have blood on their hands.
Strong words. Packer was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 36 years after being found guilty of Emma's 2005 murder. He was also found guilty of 32 other charges against a total of 22 women across 2 decades, including 11 rapes and multiple sex assaults. Packer was interviewed by police during an initial investigation but was not arrested or charged for 17 years. Police Scotland apologised for having let down Emma, her family and Packer's other victims. So, Peter, again, as a former serving police officer, I'm going to come to you first. Is anything changing here? We keep getting these stories.
It's Policing Apology Day, isn't it? We have apologies from Mark Rowley, we have apologies from Police Scotland, and to be perfectly frank, I'm sick to the back teeth of police apologies. I'd like policing to actually work, to function, to serve victims properly and to lock up bad people promptly like it ought to. I've had a huge involvement in a case from the same period, 2004, in Scotland, the unsolved murder of Alistair Wilson. And there were lamentable failings in that investigation, which is still ongoing. And all the time, I'm surprised we haven't heard yet, lessons have been learned, because that's usually the sickening phrase that I'm absolutely fed up with hearing. Policing is in crisis. It needs to get its act together for victims of crime and for the good cop.
Ava, two horrific stories in one morning. As a young woman, how would you feel now if you had been, heaven forbid, assaulted or sexually assaulted, going to the police? Would you trust the police at the moment?
I mean, I had a very positive experience with the police once when I had to report something. I had horrific messages that came into my inbox on Instagram. I mean, it was a graphic description of how this man would like to sexually assault me. And then they sent me photographs of my family that had been photoshopped in like the most horrific way imaginable. And that case actually went over to Staffordshire Police, and they were incredible. They got a prosecution. He's been sentenced, and they were just fantastic from start to finish. You know, they were calling me weekly, they're giving me little updates, they were brilliant. The problem that you've got with other police forces, they're not resourced in the same way that that particular force is. And if you don't have the resource there, you don't have the time, it means crimes go amiss, right? So if I was sexually assaulted in London, there would be a question in my mind of whether I would even bother reporting it.
There is also a factor here, Ava. You are a prominent personality who appears regularly in the media. I suspect there are many people throwing things at the TV right now because they've gone through similar situations or they've been victims of other crime, and the service they've got from the police will have been nothing like what you received.
I would agree with that. I wouldn't contest that for one moment. You know, I wasn't shying away from the fact that there might have been a little bit of PR involved there.
As I say, yeah, that's a worrying thought if people are treated differently purely because they happen to be on TV, and it's just...
Emma Caldwell was a sex worker, not a prominent TV personality.
Yeah. I mean, she was an addict, basically, was forced into sex. I hate that phrase, sex worker. Any case, no, I'm not having a go at you. It's just like, it's not like it's a career option for most women, is it? Any case, let's move on now, shall we?